Hello, grade 10, and welcome. I'm your host, Mr. T, and it's a pleasure to have everyone aboard. In this video, which is a theory video on algebra, I'm going to be touching on the surfaces of algebra, just highlighting the main concepts which are important in this section. Speaking of importance, what is important? What is it that you need to know? You need to have an understanding of concepts such as the number system. What makes up the number system? What concept do you deal with? You deal with concepts such as real numbers and non-real numbers. By definition, real numbers are any number that you can think of. That's your 0, your -2, your -2.5 over 3. Any number that you can think of is classified as a real number. What about a non-real number? Any number that you find under the square root sign and it's negative, like square root of -3. That's a non-real number. It's an imaginary number. It's non-existent. Concepts such as rational numbers versus irrational numbers. What is a rational number? A rational number is any number which you can express as a fraction, like 2 over 3, like -40. -40 how? It's -40 over 1. It can be expressed as a fraction. What about irrational numbers? A number like pi, a number like square root of 2, these numbers cannot be expressed as fractions. Also, you need to know how to make expressions undefined. Very important. You need to know how to make expressions undefined. What other concept do we look at? We deal with products. But what are products? Products, by definition, mathematically, it involves multiplication. There is a lot of multiplication. But what is the main key under products is the concept of foiling. What do we use foiling for? We use foiling when you're multiplying a binomial to a binomial, or a binomial to a trinomial, and finally, fractions to fractions. Whenever you're multiplying any two fractions in grade 10, you mainly use the concept of foiling. So it's a very important concept. You would have done this and your teachers would have done a great job in teaching you guys. What else do we need to know? We need to know factorization. Very important as well. You can see that I've marked it with an asterisk. It's probably one of the most important topics which spills over into grades to come in grade 11 and grade 12. Without an understanding of factorization, you are in trouble, I can guarantee you. So it's a concept which you need to master early on. If you can flow in this section, in this concept, then half the job would be done, I believe. So you need to have a strong understanding of factorization. But specifically for grade 10, what is it that we look at? What is it that we factorize? We deal with factorization of grouping or by grouping. We also deal with factorization, difference of two squares, I meant to say. We also deal with concepts such as trinomials, factorization of trinomials. We also deal with concepts such as differences or sum of cubes. Very important as well. So these four concepts, the factorization thereof, grouping, difference of two squares, trinomial, and sum and difference of two cubes, you have to know. We look at fractions. Under fractions, what is the concept that we look at under fractions? We look at addition of fractions, and I'm talking about algebraic fractions. We also talk about subtraction of fractions. That means we also have multiplication of fractions. We also have division of fractions. And speaking of division of fractions, you need to know that whenever you're dealing with division of fractions, mainly the concept that the examiner or anyone that's trying to test you under division of algebraic fractions, they're trying to test the concept of tipping and timesing. You would remember this. You also need to know, again, factorization comes back. Very important. You cannot do algebraic fractions without the knowledge of factorization. Finally, you need to know how to find the lowest common denominator. All these concepts, although they are not exhaustive, but I've just tried to highlight the key concept under this section, under algebra. These will be your tools that you're going to need for you to ace this section. I hope you enjoyed that.